Jason, did you see anything coming out of Google I/O AI extravaganza that you caught your interest?
No, I didn't watch it. I'm always impressed by the stuff that I hear about. Or actually, Google makes really good commercials from the features that they announce at this I/O. But no, I didn't watch it, so I don't really know what's going on this year.
I mean, I didn't really watch the whole like keynote and everything, but I did check out some recaps and saw some news articles and stuff. And they are doing a lot of AI stuff, like just all over the place.
Text, image, voice, music, all of the above?
Yes. I don't remember if they did music, but they had video. They have this thing called VO that does like video generation where you just say like, hey, I want a picture, a video rather, of like a cowboy on a horse on a sunset, and it like makes you a video of that, which is kind of wild. But then also, yeah, texts and like image search. So like the one example that kind of went around our world was that you could ask the Gemini or whatever, what's my license plate number, and it would theoretically find a picture of your license plate and show it to you. I will wait to see it to believe it, because I have a lot of pictures of various car license plates in my photo library. So how would it know which one is mine? But whatever.
Do you have Google Photos? Like, do you have that app on your iPhone?
I think I have the Google Photos app, but I do not have access to all of my photos.
I will say Google Photos, and this is not on the topic of AI, but I do actually upload to Google Photos all of my pictures because it has, in my opinion, the best album sharing model.
I think I agree with that. You can
share read only, you can share across your friends to everyone to upload. It like orders them by chronologically, like when based on when it like it has the best. So I do upload all of my photos. So I could potentially take advantage of some of this.
Yeah, maybe you'll have to be our man on the street to try this out. I don't have all my stuff in Google Photos, but I'm also holding out for Apple to surprise and delight everyone with AI Super Siri coming in 3 weeks at WWDC. But who knows?
Yeah, there's some potential there, but I don't have high hopes for that. I don't know why.
No, they don't have the greatest track record.
No. Anything other than images and videos? Like, did they do? Because for a while they were like talking about this like virtual assistant that'll call restaurants and make reservations for you and all that. And I don't know. Did that ever take off?
I don't know if it took off, but I think it did happen. Like, I think that at least some of that did happen. I don't have an Android phone, so I can't say for sure, but I think I've heard of friends that have done something like that. They did do this. They did show this live thing, Gemini Live, with some kind of real-time voice communication. So you could be like as if you're on a phone call with AI. And OpenAI showed something like this for ChatGPT 4.0 last week as well, or a week before. So AI is quickly becoming conversant, and maybe we should all be worried.
I'm not worried yet.
The one thing that I did think was interesting was the changes to Google search, where they were talking about how they were going to put a whole bunch more like cards and AI powered stuff at the top of your search page if you're using Google. And I don't know how I feel about that. Like, on the one hand, it can be super useful, and on the other hand, I just want the web pages.
I have found, well, I have news for you on that too. I have found that the results at the top of the page are valuable in certain instances. Like recently I was looking for like how to convert a certain file type or something, or programs that would do it, or programs I could use to open a certain file. And that's like the results of that are very, like the AI results, the text at the top are very good, because I wasn't searching for a link to something. I was just like, what kind of file is this? And like the AI text at the top was very good for that. At the same time, when you're looking for a piece of software or something to install, or like an actual like company's website, they can get in the way, and I totally get that. Like I just want the links. And I don't know if you saw, but they announced, hey, we're expanding a bunch of AI stuff, but they're also adding, you know how you can click which tab you want in Google search results? I want images. I want whatever. They're adding a tab called web. It's just the links.
Oh, come on. I mean, good, but like
Google originally started as.
That's wild. Like, Yeah, originally, plain white page with a little search box, no obtrusive pop-up ads or anything, like no motion on the page or anything. You just like typed your stuff in the box, hit enter, or I'm feeling lucky or whatever, and it would just like give you the Google search thing, and there was like a little unobtrusive little ad at the top maybe, and then it was your page, your 10 blue links or whatever. And now it's just like an animation bonanza of like, here, let me pop up a map, let me like fade in AI stuff as the AI generates its answer, let me rearrange the whole page. It's like, I'm glad that they're doing that, but I wonder how diminished its experience will be.
I mean, a lot of what they've done is good, I think. I think I get a lot of information I want faster. However, you're right. When you're just looking for links, it's a little much. So I suspect that the tab, right, the web tab, when you select that with your search, is going to go back to the way. I mean, a couple of ads at the top, of course, but I think it's going to be a lot of what we're looking for in terms of just links to pages.
One thing that they did talk about that was a little bit, my privacy centric mind was a little concerned, was they had something about an AI can listen to your phone calls and like interject if they think it's a scam, which like I see the utility of that.
I love that.
Like I get that, but like it makes me nervous of just like, do I really want some AI model listening to like all my phone calls? Like,
is it running locally?
I hope so. I don't know the details.
If it was running locally, I'd be all for that.
Yeah, if it was on device and nothing is going to the cloud, like, okay, I guess, fine.
And I would require anyone in my family over the age of 60 to use it.
Yeah. Anyway, Google is really pushing the envelope here, and I think they've got a lot of cool stuff coming. I feel like Google always kind of pushes out ahead fast, right? They kind of do the move fast, break things kind of thing. And then like 2 years later, the feature comes from Apple and it's like refined and simplified down to like it works and it is what it's useful and it's privacy centric and all of that. So maybe this is like the preview of things to come on the Apple side. But to all of the Android users out there, congratulations on your new AI overlords. Welcome back to Pride and Accomplishment. My name is Chris.
And I'm Jason. This is episode 127. Chris, you now had another 2 weeks. Have you finished the Fallout TV show yet?
Yes, I have finished the Fallout TV show, and I am here for it and would love season 2, which I think is coming.
I'm ready for season 2. Yeah, I'm there. You remember what we talked about in the original, like when we recorded after watching episode 3? We were like, oh, where are they going to go? Is it going to be a different set of characters? Is it just going to be a bunch of different vaults? Are they going to start all the way over with the story? And I still think there's opportunity there to like start another series, or another like parallel storyline from another vault. But this story is clearly not over.
No, there's definitely more to say with these characters, and I think that's great because they're good characters. So I really enjoyed how they did some tasteful flashbacks and some really clever, juxtapositions of flashback and present day. Like, that was really good. I want to see this universe like expanded more, and I know that there's a bunch of video games that do that, but I want to see it expanded more on the screen. And even if they have to retell certain moments from the games in the show, I don't care. Let's do it. I just want more of that production value and that universe on TV.
Yeah, I'm in. I have never really cared for Fallout. Like I never really got into the games. I am very much into this telling of the story and the universe. Do we have any news about season 2? Like, have they announced they're even doing one?
I think they did. I'm pretty sure Amazon bought like 2 seasons at least, because they did that with the Lord of the Rings show, which also got a trailer like last week as well.
Yeah, that one got a lot of flack, but as a not super Lord of the Rings nerd, I thought it was okay.
I thought it was fine. I thought it was okay. Yeah. I think you got it. It is renewed for season 2. It's definitely confirmed, but I don't know anything about the date.
Okay, cool. Probably like 2030 or something, but that's fine.
Whatever. We'll wait patiently or not. Did you hear about how Bethesda patched Fallout 4 and broke it, and then they tried to patch it again and broke it again, and fans are just like, please stop, just don't touch it.
Yeah, they just like, don't touch it. It was fine for years, just leave it.
It was, slightly broken, like all Bethesda games are slightly broken, and the community had worked around it, and then they went and broke it again.
They built mods to fix it, but then the update fixed some of them but broke all the mods. So all of the bug fixes that were fixed by mods were broken, but some of the bug fixes that were fixed by mods were fixed. But just don't touch it. It was fine. It was duct taped together and it was working. Don't touch it.
That is a classic engineering problem. It's like, no, but I could rewrite the whole thing and make it better. It's like, no, just don't. Just leave it. Leave it. Someone needs to get a squirt bottle for Todd Howard.
Yeah, I mean, I understand when they did it. Like, there's a lot of hype around it, and they did do didn't they do like a texture, like high res kind of update?
Right. I think they were prepping like a next gen, like a PS5 kind of thing, like update, and in doing so, they messed everything up.
Yeah, don't touch it. It's fine. Leave it.
Speaking of games that came out a while ago that are great and don't need touching, I have seen your Steam status playing Hades a lot lately.
Okay, you have these as two separate topics on the show notes, but I don't think these are two separate topics, because the reason I'm playing Hades is because you're playing Hades 2.
Yes.
And you kind of got this while we were on vacation together and like started playing it and started getting into it, and then I started watching it a little bit, and then I was just like, man, this is such a good game. I should play some Hades. Like, I don't need to go buy Hades 2. I've barely played Hades. Like, let me just go back and play Hades. And I have been playing it. It has taken over basically all of my free time, because I'm not playing anything else. So, God of War by the wayside, World of Warcraft by the wayside. Like, it's now the game I go to. And I have in the last week or so done like 10 or so escape attempts, and have not beaten it yet. Have not got. I've gotten to the third boss, but with like 15 total like attempts ever. Like,
that's pretty good.
I don't think that's terrible.
No, I think that's pretty good.
And I am the other thing is I'm not playing optimally, I would say. Like, I'm not playing in a way that I know I can do better, because I am by far the best with the shield. It is my favorite weapon in Hades 1. It is the one that will definitely cause me to win someday. But I am forcing myself to rotate through the weapons based on the bonus, right? So the darkness bonus rotates through the weapons.
Right.
And I am forcing myself to rotate with them because I want, one, because there's a resource that you have to get per weapon. But two, I don't know, I'm like liking the forced variety. I think that's the way you should play roguelikes, and like there's a kind of a reason to it, and I need that resource, so the bonus actually matters. And like that's the way I'm enjoying playing, even though it's probably going to take me longer to win because of it.
Yeah, I did that for a little bit, but then I think once I kind of felt like I had seen most of the like things other than the end, I think I kind of mainlined, I think it was the shield, to try to get myself, to the end and beat the final boss. And I have taken a different approach on Hades 2, where I have standardized on I think they're called the Sister Blades. It's the one where you have a melee and a range special, which I really like. So I've been playing those almost exclusively and trying to be like, okay, I'm going to beat the final boss with these weapons, and then I'm going to go follow the rotation. I tried a couple of the other weapons once or twice, and I just like, I need to hone my skills with this one thing so that I can get good enough to beat the final boss, because it's pretty hard in Hades 2, at least for me right now. So that's where I am. I'm just like focusing on one weapon, and then I'll branch out later.
I think that's fair, particularly for Hades 2, because it's still in early access. They may not have like fully balanced the weapons yet. They may still be collecting feedback on it and changing things. And so if you found a weapon that works well, particularly in early access, I would say it's fair to stick with it. My game, done, polished. Hades 1, they're not making any more changes to it. So like clearly they've decided that these are the weapons that should exist and like should be there. Whereas I can see there being a lot more change in Hades 2.
Yeah, they actually had their first patch after early access this week, and they did a bunch of balance stuff. They said they changed some of the the movement stuff, and they changed a couple of things about the way that resources are gathered, and they changed a bunch of stuff with some tweaks with some of the balance for various levels and enemies and stuff. So they are actively, it's early access, but it's really not that early access. Like, it's more like I don't know. It's better than most games are when they come out in 1.0, I would say. Hades 2 is. So I'm really glad that they're doing this. They're tweaking a bunch of stuff. They've said that they're going to have a big patch coming in the fall or sometime later in the year. And so until then, there is plenty to do in Hades 2, and it is a very faithful sequel to Hades 1.
So you haven't beaten it yet. You haven't gotten to the end.
Correct. I have not beaten it yet. I have gotten to the final boss, but I have not beaten it.
Okay. There's also, and this is probably a very small spoiler, so I'll keep it like really vague, but there are 2 different starting zones. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. And after you've played a little while, you get the ability to go to the second zone. Kind of like when you play a while in Hades 1, you start to unlock different like modes of play and different like, modifiers and like that darkness bonus you're talking about. And I don't think that comes from like the first time. In Hades 2, that there's a similar kind of bonus, but it doesn't come until you've done a few runs and gathered some resources and done a thing and whatever. So there's a lot of content there. They said, I think that the early access of Hades 2 has more content than all of Hades 1 did, and they're not done yet with Hades 2.
Yeah.
It's a $30 buy for Hades 2, and it is so worth it.
Is Hades 1 also $30? I think they're the same price, aren't they?
I believe they might be, yeah. Maybe Hades 1 is $20. I'm not sure.
Nope. Hades 1 is $25. So I don't know if that's always been that way. But yeah, they're roughly the same price. And I will say, once I'm done with Hades 1, I may take a short break, but then I should try Hades 2. Because I'm enjoying it. Everyone already knew this. I feel like I'm years late to this, but and I knew this. I've watched a lot of to be fair, I've watched a lot of Hades 1. I watched a lot of streamers play it. I watched all of the content. I mostly know most of the story, but I'll be honest, I've forgotten most of it. So I like that. Like, I forgot a lot of how it develops and how it kind of unfolds. And you definitely forget all of the individual lines. There's a lot of good quippy lines in there, and it's a good game. It's just a good roguelike. It's a good combat game, and it's a really well done story, which is sometimes surprising for roguelikes.
Oh yeah, roguelikes usually lean heavily on the endless replayability, you just need to do another run thing. And Hades was really the first one that said, hey, we're going to put a story that unfolds over the course of, 100 runs or whatever. I looked it up. I have 83 runs in Hades 1 total. And that, I don't know how many it took before I beat it the first time, but overall I have 83 escape attempts, they say. And I think I've got 25 in Hades 2.
That's a good benchmark for me. Did you beat it? So I know for Hades 1, and I'm a little less like subtle about spoilers for Hades 1. You have to beat it like 10 times to get the full kind of like story. Did you do that?
I'm not sure if I've beaten it 10 times. I've definitely beaten it at least 5.
Okay.
But I'm not sure that I've gotten all the way through 10.
I don't know that I will do that. I don't know. It seems like a lot.
Yeah. For me, actually, at this point, before Hades 2 came out, Hades 1 was like a really good, like, hey, I'm just gonna, I want to play a little bit of Hades, like just like an escape attempt, right? I just want to do one try and then see how far I get. And if I get to the end and I beat the thing, then great, I did it. And then I'll just like follow whatever the recommended, darkness bonus is and all that stuff and just go through it. I'm not really climbing in Hades 1 anymore, except for like very occasionally I'll kind of get on a little kick and do 2 or 3 attempts. But it's really nice that you can just kind of drop in and be like, yeah, I'm going to give it a shot. Like, I want to jump back into that world and try that thing.
I have found it very calming, maybe, I don't know, to play Hades in that way, because again, I hadn't played too much of it, but I have now found that like you can drop it whenever.
Oh yeah.
Like you just have to clear the room, you save and you can quit. That has changed the game to me, where I was just like, oh, I have 10 minutes. I can play 10 minutes of Hades 2 I can play 10 minutes of Hades and probably Hades 2 because you have to clear the room and then you can save and quit and you'll just come back to that room. And again, not revolutionary to anyone that's played Hades, but it is kind of like a very low stress kind of engagement for me, particularly in a time where I don't have a lot of time on my hands. So it's been nice in that regard.
It's really funny to hear you say that Hades 1 is a low stress game because it can get super hectic when you actually like the gameplay of it can be very like, twitchy and hectic kind of. I mean, depends. If you're using ranged weapons mostly, then it's maybe not as bad, but like you got to get out of the way of this thing and keep an eye on all the purple stuff and like, all of those visual cues and stuff. It can get a little frantic. And so to hear you say like, oh yeah, it's relaxing or calming or whatever at ease mind putting to be able to just pick it up and drop it. It's like, yeah, I understand what you're saying, but like, it's just funny to hear you say like, oh yeah, it's a chill game.
I've had my fair share of expletives shouted when I died. Don't you worry. Don't you worry. It's still, from a very meta sense, though, it's very nice to be able to pick up and put down, though.
Yes, I will definitely give you that.
So, I mean, maybe we can just kind of cover. Well, there's Hades 2 seems very close to. I mean, at least from what I've seen of it, you've done more of it. It seems very close to like functional feature complete. Is that a fair thing to say?
Yeah, I mean, you can beat the game. Like you can, as far as I can tell, you can play it and you can get to the end and there's a final boss, or at least again, what I think is the final boss. I guess maybe there's another boss after this. I hope there is not. But you can get through the whole thing. There's everything is relatively well fleshed out. I will say, I think that they're missing a bunch of artwork, because a lot of the power-ups and things are little icons that are lettered. So it's just like an icon with an A, B, C, D, E kind of thing. And that represents each one of the different, unlocks that you can get. In the first game, those were all special art. Like each one of those had their own art. So I'm imagining that that's probably coming later. But even the A, B, C, D thing is like styled in the style of Hades. So it doesn't look out of place. It just looks a little bit weird that it's just like, oh, that's the A bonus or the Q bonus. And it's like, oh, okay, cool. So that's a little bit weird, but like that just is, I think, a time prioritization thing on their part, and that's fine. But everything else, I mean, there's voice lines, like everything is voice acted in Hades 2. There's a story, there's a plot, there's characters, you can interact with them and kind of do all the stuff you'd expect to be able to do. There's boons and, random events and chaos buffs and all that stuff. It's all in Hades 2. And I get the feeling that there are still a few things that I have not even seen yet. Like there's a couple of pieces where it's like, oh, that thing looks like it might be unlocked at some point. I wonder when I get that. And I just unlocked like a challenge mode like the other day, and I haven't even beaten the last boss yet. And like I unlocked some kind of challenge mode, and I was like, oh, cool, nice. So there's a lot of content in Hades 2.
Playing Hades 1 and watching you play Hades 2, a lot of the complaints have been that Hades 2 is too slow, or it's a much slower game, focused less on like melee combat and more on like casting and almost like spells and things like that. Do you feel that? I don't know that I don't know that I could pick that up from watching you play, but I can see why people might think that based on what I saw you play. But have you played Hades 1 recently, and have you like compared between the two? Or do you remember Hades 1 enough to like say, hey, yeah, Hades 2 is definitely slower, but it's a different style? Or are they attempting to capture the same combat style? Like where's that? Where do you sit on that?
I think the thing that I missed the most in Hades 2 is something that I think was an unlock in Hades 1, which was the like double dash. So you can dash and then dash again. And I think, like I said, that was something that was an unlock in Hades 1. So maybe that's coming at some point in Hades 2. But that was definitely the first thing I noticed myself trying to go, dash, dash and to get away from stuff. And that just didn't happen. So in that regard, it's a little bit slower there. There's a lot more, well, maybe not a lot more, but I do feel like there are some more trade-offs of things that are like, makes you move 20% slower, and then you get a bonus or whatever. That happens sometimes. I can understand the casting thing because you do have each one of your abilities has a press and hold effect, which I don't remember. Did Hades 1 have that?
Some, like the shield has an attack, and then a press and hold is the bull rush.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, this is I guess everything kind of did, but like you have like a mana resource now. They call it magic, Magick, that you spend when you use those kind of powered up abilities. And so maybe that's where people get to it, because also when you do that, at least by default, one of the first power ups that you get will slow down time while you make those casts, because it takes like a 1 second, fill in a little circle in order to make those casts, and they will slow time for you while you do that by default, unless you turn off that thing. So like that literally slows the game down, but it also gives you time to react and time to, kind of not stand still. You can move while you cast, but like, whatever, you're not able to dash while you are holding a cast button, I'm pretty sure. So for instance,
it's not like a melee attack where you can like combine them together, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Which you can still do. You can still dash strike, and do that. But I think I can see where people would think it's a little bit slower, but it's just different. Like it's a different. They have kept the essence of the playstyle of Hades and added unique and different and interesting other mechanics to it. That's not just like here's more Hades. Like it's not just the same game with new levels, and that I think is a impressive feat for them to have done.
Any idea on when? I mean, so it's early access right now. And I will say, it looks really good for early access. I agree with you. I personally try to avoid early access. I've said it here before. I generally stay away from stuff. I'm, side note, really excited for the next round of V Rising whenever that occurs. And I will get in on that because it did release into 1.0, or does very soon. I don't remember which. But... is there any indication on when Hades 2 is like going full 1.0?
I don't know for sure, but if I had to guess, it's either going to be like the Game Awards in December of this year, probably, or like this time next year kind of time frame. It's like E3-ish time.
Like 1 year or less.
That's what I think. I mean, that's what it feels like. But who knows? I mean, Hades 1 got updates for a couple of years after it came out, I think. Or maybe it was early access for like 3 years, and then finally they were like, hey, it's 1.0 now. You're like, wait, what? Was it not 1.0 before? Like, I forget exactly how that all worked out. But the game is so polished right now that, like, if I didn't tell you it was early access, I don't think you could actually tell.
Yeah, okay. Well, I don't have time for it anyway, so I gotta beat Hades 1 first.
Yeah, and then go back to God of War.
Yeah, that's true. So I'll wait until it comes out in 1.0, not because I need it to be 1.0, but because I need to do other things first.
Yeah, don't forget, Factorio expansion is probably coming out late summer.
Oh, God, and the World of Warcraft expansion, and the next Guild Wars 2 expansion. I know.
Yeah, lest anyone think there's nothing to play. It's good, though. It's good. There's a lot of good games coming out. And I mean, that's not even to say anything of the major AAA stuff. I mean, WoW is kind of in that AAA camp, but like, I don't actually know what the next like $70 big game is. I don't have anything on my radar right now.
Well, you've got Assassin's Creed on the horizon. You've got the Star Wars Outlaws on the horizon.
Oh yeah, that's the next one.
That's August, isn't it?
Yeah, that's coming up. That pre-order is open for that, I think.
Yeah. I mean, you got some big stuff coming out like after July. I think July is kind of the June, July is kind of the dead zone. But then like August through the end of the year, you've got some big stuff coming out, particularly in August, though.
Yeah, August 30th is Star Wars Outlaws.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Okay.
Yep.
I think I'm busy late August. Like I said, Factorio and WoW. Like, there's no time.
Hey, you got to take a week off of work.
I guess that might be the answer.
It might be.
A little gaming sabbatical.
Okay, well, short one today, but I think Chris and I thought it was really important to talk about Hades and Hades 2. I mean, Hades 2 in early access now on Steam. So far, so good. Really good, great game. Hades 1, who would have thunk? Also a great game. You've heard it here first.
Who would have known that the Indie Game of the Year winner or whatever from 5 years ago is a great game?
Yeah. I'm really hot take here. Hades, good game. If you want to get in contact with us or share your really hot takes, you can join our Discord, which you can get to at discord.pnapodcast.com.
If you want to find any of our older episodes or read our show notes, probably not much there today, but if you want to read our show notes, you can visit our website at pnapodcast.com. That's P, the letter N, the letter A, podcast.com.
If you're enjoying the show, we'd love if you could share it with some others that might enjoy it as well.
Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll talk to you next time. Jason, I did a thing.
Yeah, I saw this coming.
I know. I may or may not have bought a new iPad Pro this week.
There's no may not. You did.
I did. You're right. I did. Yes, I got the 13-inch OLED iPad Pro.
Oh, you got the big one.
Yeah. I decided to go big on this one. I came from an 11-inch iPad Air, and it was good. But I started to think, I was like, well, sometimes I like to use the iPad as like a second screen for my Mac if I'm traveling. It works nicely as that. And the 11-inch is just a little too cramped to really successfully do that. So I was like, well, there's the reason for that. And I want the big screen, or I want the good screen. And like, if I'm going to get a good screen, I might as well get a good big screen. So yes, I have a 13-inch iPad Pro with the Apple Pencil Pro, which is, super cool.
You have it already, or is it on the way, or what?
Oh, I have it in my hand right now.
Oh boy. Okay. Do you use a Mac for work?
I do not use a Mac for work. No.
Okay, so the extra screen is for personal. For personal
stuff. But if I'm traveling for work and I bring my personal laptop to like game on or whatever, then I'll usually bring the little 15-inch, LCD screen thing. But then sometimes it's nice, especially if you're working in kind of the Appleverse, to have an iPad which is useful for other things and use that as the second screen if I'm not bringing my entire setup.
The iPad is the best Netflix device I've ever had in my whole life.
Yeah, it's great for watching media, like excellent, for sure.
But my thing with iPads is I've always just had an old one, and it's always just been fine. But I mean, this screen does look really cool. I'm not saying that this one wasn't worth it. The screen looks really good. I think everything about this latest one is really nice. But I've never felt the need to upgrade my iPad. Is it just wanting something cool and new, or was there a specific thing you were needing kind of from this?
It's kind of it. Well, part of it is the OLED all the things desire, which is not a need. It is a want for sure. But I would say the biggest need, the closest thing to a need that I had there was that the Air that I had, I was a little bit bothered by the fact that it didn't have the ProMotion fast refresh screen for the pencil, because I do like to take notes and handwrite stuff with the Apple Pencil on the iPad. So having the line lag the pencil a little bit was annoying to me. Not, again, first world problem, not a huge deal. But
sure, but something you noticed,
that was something I cared
definitely
about.
improved. Yeah.
It's not just like, ooh, shiny screen, better for watching Netflix. Like, it's, hey, this is functional and this is actually a thing. I've also been I don't know, curious about, although this is, everybody would say this, but I'm curious about trying to draw a little bit. And something like that might be fun to try it on the best experience possible from a digital standpoint. I mean, obviously pencil and paper exists, but it's what I do. Tech stuff.
Who does that?
Also, this one is super thin, so they finally made it so that and lighter than the old 13-inch or 12.9-inch. So they made it so that the big one is more palatable to kind of carry around compared to the old one.
So I had, or I think I bought for my dad one time, a big iPad Pro, and he used it for for piano sheet music, because he likes to play piano. So we kind of digitized all of his sheet music, or a lot of it, so he could have kind of a piano book on the go if he ever wanted it. That thing was huge and it was heavy.
Right.
So one of the most appealing parts of this to me was 13 inches, really thin, really light. And I was like, okay, that's appealing.
Yeah, I think the difference between my old iPad Air, 11-inch iPad Air, and the 13-inch iPad Pro now is maybe a quarter pound. It's 1 pound versus a pound and a quarter. So sure, that's 25%, but it's also way better than it was, because I think it used to be 1 pound and a pound and a half. So
yeah,
it's a lot better now than it was. And I realized that a lot of the stuff I do, I didn't care too much if it was something where I could hold the iPad. If it was something I didn't think the weight was going to be a big deal. I was sitting on the couch earlier and I was holding the iPad in my hand, and I was noticing that it was I think the way that I was holding it was a little bit weird. because I was starting to feel a little bit of the weight on my, like the lever arm of the long iPad, like on my hand, because I was holding it with one hand and like, using it with the other hand kind of thing. So I think it might be more of those like put a pillow down and like put the iPad on it and then work it that way.
I was going to say, I think the 13-inch is probably too big to kind of just hold in bed, right? Like to me, the 13-inch is very much meant for the Magic Keyboard, like setting it up on a desk, even if it's in like a foldable case, like where it's kind of propped up. I have a very tiny 11-inch Air, and even that at times I'm just like, I'd rather just hold my phone in bed, like put it closer to my face, get a phone instead of a 1 pound iPad. So I feel like the 13-inch like definitely crosses the threshold for me where it's like no longer a lay in bed device. Maybe with how light and thin the new one is, maybe, but even so, like I think it's much more of a desk top device.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably fair. I will say I had the Magic Keyboard for my Air, and I don't have it for the Pro yet. So I've been trying with like an external Bluetooth keyboard and an external Magic Trackpad just to like be able to have the trackpad and keyboard experience on the iPad, because I realized I do use the trackpad to scroll a lot, and I like to use the keyboard to do crossword puzzles. So I have an actual, I mean, again, it's a frivolous use case, but an actual use case. And there's a deal actually right now. So if you have a Chase Sapphire card, they have a deal where you can redeem your points for 25% more value on Apple stuff. So I got a Magic Keyboard using credit card points. And it's going to be on the way. Who knows when? So probably weeks, but whatever. But for now, I've got the iPad and I've got kind of an outboard keyboard and Magic Trackpad that I've been using. So I do use the iPad like reasonably often, not all the time, but it's something is different about the iPad versus my because I have a MacBook Pro, right? I have a computer, like I have a laptop, but I would rather use the computer to, I don't know, it feels like a heavier device or whatever. Like, I mean, it's physically heavier, but you know what I mean? Like a more serious task device on the computer versus like the iPad. I can like, play some games or do some light research or, a little bit of shopping or whatever. And now with the iPad Pro, I'm like, well, I can do some drawing, or I can play with now that it's big, I can do the split screen thing where I can do two apps with the iPad horizontal, and they can actually both have content in them instead of one of them being like squished down to the size of a phone. So I'm interested to see kind of how the workflow goes for me. But so far I'm pretty happy with it. And it's so thin. It is thinner than the Apple Pencil. Like the iPad itself is thinner than the Apple Pencil. I
don't know if you've seen it yet, but the Jerry Rig Everything video about the iPad Pro, like he does like the bend test and everything. And he was impressed by the long way bend resistance. And then he tried to fold it he was holding it vertically and he tried to bend it down the middle. Yeah, hot dog style. And it just went boom, and it just bent and broke.
Interesting.
So it's really good in one direction and really bad in the other direction.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind. I did get the Apple Care, so I can, if when I break it that way, I can pay a little less money to get it fixed. But yes, I had seen some of that, and I had actually seen, when they tried to do it on the diagonal, they tried to like twist it and stuff, and it held up nicely. So that was good. I don't know. I'm not usually that hard on my stuff, so like I'm not too worried about it. The biggest risk would be like somehow it ends up in a stack of stuff and there's too much weight on top of it and it somehow cracks the screen or something. But with Apple Care, they now have screen replacements for iPads are just like phones, where it costs $29 to do a screen replacement if it's only the screen that needs replacing. Yeah, it's wild. So that was nice.
Yeah. I mean, for how often you use your iPad, if you use it as often as you say, this is great. I would say my iPad is the kind of iPad that stays in the travel book bag until I travel again, and then sometimes gets pulled out to watch Netflix. But otherwise, like, I do not use my iPad when I'm home. It just does not happen.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, it just feels like a better, like, hey, I just don't want to do a quick thing on a screen bigger than my phone. I'll grab the iPad, especially when I had the Magic Keyboard. It makes it into like a little laptop for, again, focused tasky stuff like recording a podcast. I'll use my Mac. Like, doing a bunch of stuff where I need to do a bunch of spreadsheeting or something, I'll probably use my Mac. Although now with the bigger screen on the iPad, I'm interested to see if that changes anything or gets better. But yeah, it's cool. I did have to upscale my typical iPad background for the bigger screen. So like I had what was like a picture of a painting, and it was like kind of low res because it had come from some download of something. So I had to run it through Photomator AI upscale to
No kidding.
like reshape it or whatever and make it into a better resolution picture of itself. So because the blurriness of it or whatever, the digital artifacts were so noticeable. And they were noticeable on the old one too. I just didn't care as much. But now with the brighter screen and the better screen and the bigger screen, and it's just, I wanted it better. So I ran it through one of those AI sharpening things, and it actually worked because it was like a painting, like I said. So nothing made it look weird. It didn't look like muddy like it would maybe on a person.
Look at us, full circle. Started with AI, and here we are ending with AI.